You are listening to Resilient Life, the podcast where we explore the power of resiliency. I'm Nikita Ross. It is my hope that listening to this podcast will give you the tools to connect with and increase your resiliency. So join me on this adventure of self-discovery and self-love. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Resilient Life. In today's episode, we have an amazing, wonderful, special author. I would love you to introduce yourself and tell us anything you want us to know about you.
Sure. Well, my name is Malika J. I am the author of the historical novel Song of Redemption, which is a Southern historical novel set in Louisiana. And there was a lot of research that went into it, which I'll get into later. But my background is I am a genealogist. I am also a former journalist, and I am a communication enthusiast as well as a writer. So that's a little bit about me. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I have also lived in Los Angeles, California, and Arizona. I'm so glad to be on the show, and I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about some of the research you've done for your book and in this incredible book.
Sure. So I'll tell you a little bit about the inspiration for it, which leads into the background of the book. So with the background of the book is that lady who I met through my mother was telling me about her father and how her father was a part of a construction company in Louisiana, or construction crew. And he and his team were sent to refurbish this mansion. So they go into this mansion, and her father is noticing that the blueprint is a little bit different than what they're actually seeing. So he saw in one of the rooms was a wall that had been erected, and that wall was not in the blueprint. So he gets a closer look at the wall. He starts noticing that there's hair in this wall, and that really was not. It wasn't anything unusual, because they used to put horsehair and all kinds of other things in in the plaster when building homes and whatnot. But he noticed that this hair was curly, so he starts chipping at it, starts picking at it. He's like, okay, there's something or someone behind this wall. So he's looking at his crew members, and nobody wants to touch it. Everybody's like, dude. So he's like, okay, finally he's like, okay, I'm gonna knock it down. He knocks down the wall, and behind the wall is a woman who is in a roundabout chair, or the remains of a woman in a roundabout chair. Her wrists were bound and her ankles were bound. And with the type of clothing and with the slave badge that she had on, they recognized that she was a former house slave. And so with that information, I was thinking there's so many untold stories about our past, about, the history of African Americans and Blacks in America. And I just could not let that story go. And it's one of those that it stuck with me for quite some time. And so I, as a former journalist, or then a journalist, I did my research. I looked into all of the records that I could at the time. I took a few trips down to Louisiana, and I spoke to people. I did a lot of footwork. Had some people who didn't quite know, what had happened, but they had heard stories about it, from great ancestors and whatnot. And so I felt it was my responsibility to do some digging and to find out a little bit more about who this woman was, how she lived, what led up to her fate. And so the book itself starts in 1932. I forgot to mention that part. So she was found in 1932. by this gentleman. And she actually passed in the late 1850s. So
Wow.
all that being said, I did some digging and learned about a lot of the legislation that happened within slavery, and a lot of other things that were going on within the state and after the Civil War and whatnot. So, long story short, a lot of research went into it. Took about 10 years to do some of the research, and so ultimately it crafted into the historical novel Song of Redemption.
That is a wonderful story. I didn't realize how much of the foundation of the novel was based off of that real life experience you had. That makes it even more
Mm-hmm.
exceptional. Would you say that a 10
Thank
year,
you.
you're welcome. Would you say that a 10-year research journey to gather historical information would be the norm? Or would you say it's because you're so thorough and detailed and you want to be as accurate as possible that that's your norm? Or would you say it's because it was your first embarking on it that it took that long?
It was probably a combination of all three. And I
Okay.
would say that I was very persistent. It probably would not have taken that long, but I was extremely persistent to try to find as much information as I could. And I still didn't get all of the information, which is it's why I had to craft some of the story myself and try to fit together some pieces and some gaps that in the areas where I could not find the information. And part of that reason was because of natural disasters that happened. There were a lot of records that were lost during Hurricane Katrina. I was in communication with the with the coroners and with the library in their archives department, and yeah, a lot of that information was lost, unfortunately. And what I could not lose was that story. So when it comes to Black history, I try to be extremely thorough, because once it's forgotten, it's forgotten. And, we're already living in a time where people want our history to be forgotten, want it to be lost, and want it to be erased. And if, if I could do my due diligence and try to find as much information as possible and can have it continuously live on, then that's what I was going to do.
I think you did a wonderful job of exactly what you said, capturing this untold story of our history, because there are so many. And you took the charge upon yourself to share the experience of too many of our ancestors, what they've experienced, and to memorialize it so that it'll live long after you. So I think it's a wonderful, beautiful legacy that you've created.
Thank you so much.
Of
And
course.
just to add to that, as I mentioned, I'm a genealogist as well. So part of what I do, by hobby. So part of what I do is a lot of research and a lot of digging, and a lot of learning about history. And I know what the history books say, but what do these actual records tell me? And there's a lot of conflict that's going on in our textbooks and in what we're being told. So that being said, with genealogy, that's where I also was able to apply some of my research and my process within writing this book as well.
Thank you for that. Malika, I have a question. For those who are watching who are aspiring authors, they want to start, but they don't know where to start. What advice would you have for them, especially Black women? We know it's harder for people of color to break into the literary business. And so you've done it. We'll get to the accolades your book has received. We'll get there, but you've done it. And so, what advice would you have for aspiring authors?
I'd say just get started. First of all, one of my favorite quotes is by Mark Twain, and and he says, "The secret of getting ahead is just getting started." So I would say just write. And then the next step would be to join some writers groups. There's so many that are out there that are customized for, whatever it is that you're looking for. Let's say you write fantasy. There's so many wonderful writers groups that are both in person and virtually. And I would check with your local library, because most libraries have a writing group. There's a few of them that I know of. So I would say that that's one of the best ways, as well as looking at some of the indie bookstores. And some of them have both book clubs as well as writing groups. So look into that as well. And sometimes some universities or community colleges will, open their doors for any sort of critiques, or, again, writing groups as well. The next step, I would say, is decide whether or not you want to do either self-publishing, or if you want to go and look at some of the big publishing houses, or if you would like to look at, some of the boutique publishing companies. So, or they're also called like hybrid publishing companies as well, where, you have more of your rights. So you just need to really decide where you would like to go with your writing, if it's something that you want to continue to do, and if it's something that you want to do full time. So yeah, I can speak all day about the publishing companies and the pros and cons, but I know we have limited time here.
What about your actual writing process? Do you have a process? Is there like some writers are like, it has to be this time of day, my desk has to look like this, it has to be total silence. Some writers are like, I have to escape to the beach or the country. Do you have a writing process? And if you do, are you comfortable sharing it?
Sure. I do have a writing process, and in an ideal world, it would be nice to find that nice, perfect, quiet place that has like the best scenery and just right. But if you're a working mom, or if you have a full-time position and just that's just not feasible for you, I would say just right. I would say pick a day, and pick a day and an hour to write. So what my process was starting out was, I'll go back to when I first started writing. I first started writing when I was 15. I wrote my first novel at 15. Have not published it yet for various reasons. but but I started writing at 15, and just organically I picked a day, and the day was Friday evenings. And Friday evenings at, when would I would start typically at like 5 o'clock. And however long I needed to write, then that's how long I wrote. So very often I wrote well into Saturday afternoon. So I would say pick a day and a time to start writing, and then you can expand on that. You can try to write something every day, for 30 minutes or for an hour, but the whole goal is to write something. Even if you feel like you don't necessarily have something to write, or you want to go in a different direction with your outline, the whole goal is to have something down. So I would say do that. And then also you can dedicate whatever day that you selected, or days, to, the research part of it. Whereas the other day could be just the whole writing process. So that would be, my first few steps is to, yeah, pick a day, pick a time, get writing.
I think those are really good practical steps. It wasn't lofty, like, oh, wake up in the morning and feel inspired. It was very practical tips. You stated that not everyone has the opportunity to have the perfect environment to write in and to work with what you have. So, thank you for those tips. I want to talk about accolades about that the book has received. So, you have gotten some accolades. Your book has been featured in, I want to say, one or two bookstores. Please share.
Yeah. So thank you. for that opportunity. What I started doing was reaching out to indie bookstores because indie bookstores absolutely love local authors. So I reached out to them, and of course there is a process. They have to see if your book will, be a really good fit for their stores. And I made a lot of connections when reaching out to some of these people, and some of the shop owners are just fantastic because they are enthusiastic about books and reading and writing, and they really want to see both their store flourish, but they want to see the author flourish as well. So that was one thing that I did. So I reached out to some, and it's currently in 4 bookstores. Um, it's due to be in Barnes and Noble soon, which I'm extremely excited about. Yes. It's going to be there physically. It's currently online wherever you get your books. And in terms of awards, so I recently became a finalist for the International Book Awards in the category of African
Congratulations.
American fiction. Thank you. And then I'm also a finalist in the Indie Book Awards as well. And I received a 5-star review from Readers Favorites.
It's really inspiring to hear that
Thank
you put in
you.
so
Thank
much
you.
work and to be able to see the fruits of your labor. And I hope you're very proud.
Thank you. I
Of
am. What
course.
I think what I'm most proud of, though, are just the conversations that have started because of the book. And that's really all that I wanted for the book. I never really set out to write this and think, ooh, I want to make $1 million, or, I want my face plastered on Times Square with this. But it's never been about that. It's always been about telling this woman's story and her journey. And her name is Danielle, by the way. So telling Danielle's story and her journey, and just sharing the stories of others who are also within the book, who are also real characters. When people come to me and they tell me about the joy that it gave them, I know it sounds like it's a morbid book, but there's really joy behind it. There's tears behind it. There's all of these different emotions that's behind this book. And so when people come to me and they tell me how the book made them feel, or how the book allowed them to go speak to some of their relatives and ask more questions that they didn't think to ask, or to have more of a relationship with, some of the seniors in their families who either try to keep certain secrets to themselves, or, all kinds of things, actually came from these conversations. So I think I'm the most proud of that, of hearing the journey of these people who have read the book, and I'm very grateful, and I'm enjoying the journey myself.
Malika, I think you gave the best advice that anyone could give a writer, an author, any kind of creative, when you said, I didn't do it setting out to be famous or popular or, to use your words, get $1 million. I think that's so wonderful because when we are creating, be it writing, painting, whatever we're creating, if we're creating it from a place of love and I want to share with people whom it'll touch without having the motivation to gain notoriety from it, I think that is some of the best advice. And that's when we can be in our pure form of creation, when we're doing it for the purpose of creating something beautiful and magical and special, which this novel is.
Oh,
So
thank
thank
you.
you for that. I
Okay.
love that inspiration of why you started
Mm.
this and the purity of your journey. in writing this. I think it's absolutely beautiful and aspirational.
Thank you. Yeah, and I totally agree with what you said about, creatives. I recently had a conversation with a recording artist, and we've spoken about he and I have spoken about this before, but we talk about how the music industry and the publishing industry are almost parallel, because with music you have singers and musicians who want to just make good music, and they want to do it for not just themselves, but for maybe those who can enjoy their genre of music. But sometimes you have like these the industry where they want to market you a certain way, or they want to change and shift something, and it's just it's not quite what you set out to do. And so I just think it's interesting that how parallel a lot of these industries run, and it's really easy to lose sight of why you even started to begin with, and who you set out to actually inspire. So, yeah, thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, that resonates with me because when I started the
Mhm.
podcast, I said, I want to connect with people who can benefit from increasing their resiliency. And I don't want to be focused on the number of followers, the numbers of likes, and the number of subscribes.
Mhm.
However, social media and other platforms are like, you have this many, here's how you get more. And I have to like constantly remind myself that's not why you got in it. You didn't get in it for, to use your number, 1 million subscribers or followers. You got in it to touch whomever this touches and hopefully inspires them to increase their resiliency. And so when you said that, that's why it resonated with me. And that's why I thought it was so beautiful. And I think all creatives could use that reminder every once in a while. So thank you for how you worded it. It was beautiful.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and I feel like
Yes.
with your podcast, like if you touch one person, you don't know the effects of that one person. You don't know how much of a light that one person is, because you're a light yourself.
Thank you.
So, when you touch somebody else who is also a light, I mean, it's just phenomenal, how much power you can actually bring, to so many others. So when you even started this, I already told you how perfect I thought you were for this, because given your background, and given your experiences, life experiences and lessons that you learned, I mean, I still feel like there's no better person to have this podcast and this platform but you. So so
Thank
I
you.
definitely applaud you, and I'm proud of the work that you've done, and I can't wait to see where your journey leads.
Thank you. I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of where journeys lead, as you're making me tear up, um, what's next for Malika? Do we continue to promote this book while writing a second one? Or do we just focus on this one for now?
A little of both. So I am writing and researching another book, and so that one's going to be very interesting, because it's also based on a true story, with maybe fictitious aspects of it as well. And so I'm really excited about this next one that's coming out. There's also one that's that I've already written, and I'm adding a little bit more to it. I am again, trying to be extremely thorough, but it involves a couple of Native American tribes, and I really want to highlight their cultures as well as their customs. And so this is definitely one that I need to get right. So again, there's a lot of research that's going into both of the books, and currently the the book Song of Redemption is going to be out on Audible soon, and I am extremely excited about it. So it should be out next month, and or at the end of next month. And so I will definitely let you know when well, yeah, when it's out and when it's available for purchase.
You are and will be officially on all the platforms, and that is really exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Malika, tell me, how do you define resilience?
I define resilience as not allowing to be knocked down. You know, there are rejection is a part of life, and failure is also a part of life, but lessons are also a part of each of those things. And so I feel as though if you have a set goal or a set purpose, and you are striving for that, you may need to just change your approach, but still focus on that goal or that purpose. And so I feel that's a part of resilience. And with resilience comes strength. With resilience comes wisdom, and with resilience comes lessons that you can learn, but also you might be going through a certain phase or going through a certain experience, not just for yourself, but for other people. So, all that to say, that's my definition of resilience.
That's a great definition. If you have that
Thank you.
definition in mind, do you consider
Hmm.
yourself to be resilient?
Absolutely. There,
Yeah.
there's a number of there's a number of experiences that I've had where, in my younger days, I was thinking, okay, well, what's the point of me even going through this, or why did this particular thing happen? And a lot of times I beat myself up for it. I took accountability, and I was also mad at whatever the situation was, or whoever I felt caused that situation. But at the same time, I there were so many lessons that I learned from it, and I feel as though I grew. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't go as far as to say, I wouldn't change anything. There's definitely some things that I would change, but overall, I feel as though I'm very resilient. And even with this book, I was told no so many times, so many times, which is why I changed my approach. And I knew what the focus was, and the focus had nothing to do with how many likes that I had. That was because that was one of the things. Oh, well, you don't have that many subscribers, or you don't have a huge following, so we're not interested. So things like that, where where you try, some people might try to get you off track with your goals. Um I think in my case, I was definitely resilient in going forth, in life, and also with my book, and what I feel as though my purpose is, which is writing.
I love that. And I love that transparency of what happens behind the scenes sometimes when you're trying to get your work published, and the faulty thinking of likes equates to a well written book. What should be the
Mm,
criteria? Is it a well written
right.
book? Not
Hmm.
how many likes and followers you have. Because I can
Hmm.
have a million, but if I don't write well, so in that essence, it becomes about how much money can you make us? And not,
Mm.
like you said, the goals of how do I get this amazing story out into the world so that it can educate people, inspire people, challenge people to think and see things differently, to change the way they see the world. That is the purpose and the goal, and not likes. And I love that you hit on that. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and to add on to that, yeah, that I started to see what was happening in the world, like when by the time that this book came out and I was getting all the no's. You know, I actually celebrated, which is unusual, you know, and I know it sounds strange to hear that, you know, I got rejected. Yay. But that wasn't the case. You know, I felt as though, you know, it started, you know, them saying no started the process for me. So I was like, okay, great, moving on. And so with that, I felt that I was one step closer either to a yes or to whatever
Mm,
my next step would be. And so yeah, so
mm.
each no, I was just like, okay, yay, on to the next. um and so yeah, so I feel as though that's a part of resiliency as well.
I I love that response. I love that it's validating, right? And it is resilience because the resilience has a level of optimism, and you exhibit optimism by saying, "Oh, I know. Okay, what's next?" Or I know this is moving me toward whatever is next. And not everyone has that. I can tell
Mm,
you that I take rejection pretty hard. And so I love
mm.
that perspective that you have. Can you share a little bit about how you got to that place?
So I always have this mindset of, okay, I want to do something and I want to accomplish something. So I know to some people it might sound outlandish or it might seem untouchable. But why is it untouchable? Is it untouchable just because I'm, you know, the average Josephine, you know, and that person over there can accomplish it because he or she is a celebrity? No, they're human just like I am. And so what did they do to get it? Or, you know, what are some of the back roads that I have to take to get to where I need to go? And so I think just keeping that in mind really helps. I think knowing knowing how to do your research and knowing you know, who you might need to speak with and things like that, I think that's key. Yeah, and I think, you know, rejection is just a big part of life anyway, and there's always going to be people telling you no. There's always going to be people telling you you can't do something, or you're ugly, or you're not enough in whatever capacity. So it's it's easy for me now to shut them out and say, no, I am enough, or hmm, I may be able to improve on this and I will get there. But and this is how I'm going to get there. So, you know, so I just really think that, you know, having that mindset of you can do it, whatever it is. I think having that mindset is so valuable. And you don't need to look at what everybody else is doing. You just need to focus on what you're doing and how you're going to get there and have that strategy.
I know that right now, historical fiction seems to be your genre, but I am looking forward to your self help motivation book. Those are, I just imagine myself reading
Oh,
those
thank you.
words it was beautiful,
Thank you.
of course.
I appreciate that.
What made you smile today?
My kids made me smile today. They make me smile every day because just without trying, they're hilarious. I think just being them and trying to have, I know what it was. They were trying to have a serious, deep conversation, and all I see is baby. When they're talking, they're 5 and 8. And so all I see is baby when they're trying to be serious with me about something. Today it was about pizza and why we should get pizza today. And so they're pitching their case as to why we should have pizza, and so that's what made me smile. And I don't even know what it is that they said because it was just yeah, 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 yeah. that's, that's all I heard. Okay.
Malika, what is the theme
Yes.
song of your life? So if you look in the mirror and you're feeling yourself, or you're trying to pump yourself up or motivate yourself, what is that song?
It depends on the situation, but
Okay.
because I have 2 to 3 songs. I don't have to sing it, do I?
You do not,
I do. I have to
you
sing
do
it.
not have to sing it. No, unless you want to.
Okay.
You can if you
Um.
want to.
Well, so the first one, especially if I'm about to do something, if I'm going on a speaking engagement, or if I'm going on, if I'm going to be, at a bookstore at a feature as a featured author or something like that, then I love Mary Mary's "Go Get It." Go
Oh,
get
I
it,
don't
go
know
get
that
it, go
one.
get it, go get it, go get
I
your
don't know
blessing,
that
go
one.
get it. Yeah. And it talks about how it's your time,
Hmm.
and how you need to just go reach out there and get your blessing, get what is promised to you. So I absolutely love that. And what's funny is that I could not stand that song when it first when it first came out. I liked I liked the words, but over time it just I just adopted it. And so I like it now. So yeah, Mary Mary's "Go Get It." Also, I'm huge on I love performances, and I love the stage and whatever. So the second song will be "Shot" by the musical Hamilton. I'm not
Yes,
giving away
I do
my
know that one.
shot. I'm not. Yeah, that one.
Yes.
And from The Greatest Showman, "This Is Me." Yeah. So if you've never seen The Greatest Showman, that that song really defines what a lot of people, might be going through. If they're told that they're not enough, they're not articulate enough, they're
Oh,
not
wow.
beautiful enough, they're not. Yeah, it's called "This Is Me," and the words are just so powerful. Those are the three. I know you asked for one, and I apologize, but those are the three.
There are no wrong answers. So uh, I ask for one, but if you have five, you have five. There are no wrong answers.
Those would be my top three right there.
I like it. I'm going to have to listen to one of them. The rest of them, no, two of them, the Mary Mary and the Greatest Show. I have to
The
listen to
Greatest
those two. I don't know
Showman. The
those.
song is "This Is Me." Beautiful, beautiful lyrics. Very empowering as well.
Sounds promising. What is the healthiest thing you've done for yourself?
The healthiest thing, couple of things. I I changed my environment,
Hmm.
and what I mean by that is, I noticed that my mental health was declining, and
Mm-hmm.
when I lived in Los Angeles, for example, my mental health was declining, and there were a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things that were involved with that. There was, the fact that economically may not necessarily be the best place for me to live. And so working 3 jobs was not how I
Wow.
envisioned living, my life, while not being able to do what I wanted to do, which was right. So that, and then, that also, I looked at my circle of friends, and, while I still think that I have a good circle of friends there, um, I felt that I still didn't fit into the culture of Los Angeles. And so, great place to visit. I'm not bashing LA by any means. I'm just saying it just was not for me. And coming home after, working 2 and 3 jobs, and coming home in the evening and choosing between, do
Mm.
I eat or do I sleep? Or do I, work on my passion
Wow.
project? Do I have time to work on my passion project? It really was not the best thing for me.
Yeah.
So I changed
Mm-hmm.
my environment and decided to just branch out and just move. Try to find, what's one place where I feel as though I can flourish, whether it's, within my career or personally. Did I need to be around, family more, so having all of those thoughts in mind and considerations, yeah, I decided to move on my own and move someplace where I didn't originally have family. And so that was the absolute healthiest for me because I was able to find, additional friends here and build a community. And I didn't know what a community was, when I lived
Mm,
on the West Coast. I had no idea, when I lived in Arizona, I learned what a community was. But I think that that was the absolute healthiest thing for me to do, was to put my mental health first and then change my environment. And I met my husband here, and I met my church community here, and they are a strong, beautiful community of, powerful men and women. And it's just been a lovely thing, to witness and to be adopted into as well.
thank you for that. I think,
Hmm.
and I didn't hear you acknowledge it, so I'm going to acknowledge it for you. The level of bravery it takes to pack up everything you know and go to a place that's away from your core, be it your parents, be it your siblings, whatever your core unit is, that takes so much bravery. And then to do it more than once, oh, that is awesome. And kudos to you for that.
Thank you. I do have to add that
Of course.
a lot of research went into it first. I didn't just pack up and say, I'm gonna move. Um, so a lot of research went into it first, and then a lot of prayer also went into it, because it is it is a scary thing to just, you know, pack everything up and then just move by yourself, and you don't know what's gonna happen. And so there were numerous
Yeah.
times when um so like for example, when I moved from Arizona to North Carolina, I'd start packing in the morning, and I, kept thinking, I would pray about it and say, Lord, is this the right move for me? Should I stay here? Do you have something else for me that I just don't know about? Or should I continue to
Hmm.
move? I didn't hear a word from God or anything at that time. And so finally I got frustrated, and I said, Lord, I'm gonna have to hear from you. I said, I don't want, I don't want anything symbolic. I don't want you to bring, anybody my way to tell me what you would like for me to do. I want to hear from you. And so finally, I got up the next morning, and I said, Lord, am I making the right move? And it's clear as
Mm.
day, he said, continue with your plans. I was like,
Wow.
okay, yeah, yeah. And so it took a whole lot of faith, even when I got here. Took a whole lot of faith, because still, there's always the unknown. There's always the what ifs. But what I did not want leading me was regret. Just having faith and stepping out is, at least I could say I tried, even if things didn't go the way that I had planned. That's
I
my
love
spiel.
that. No, I think that's beautiful. And I love that. Malika, how do you celebrate
Yeah.
yourself?
I celebrate myself by going on a Malika retreat. Okay, so this is what I advise for every woman, especially every working woman, every woman who is a mom, whatever your situation is. I would say, at the very least, find a day in 24 hours, find a wonderful either resort or hotel or, campgrounds, if that's what you're into, and just go for 24 hours. Of course, bring your phone, tell people where you're going, but that's your time. So that's your time to sit there and sip on wine by the pool. That's your time to, maybe even catch up with friends, talking to friends over the phone who you haven't spoken to in a while. That's your time to write something, to journal, to eat. You can order
Pray,
in, pray,
meditate.
all of exactly. So that is your time. And so that's how I celebrate myself, is by going on a Malika retreat. And it's, the goal is to come back refreshed and to have like a clear mind. Now, if you have more than 24 hours, by all means, go do it. But I think that something happens within that 24 hours where everybody needs to reset. And I think that that's like one of the best ways, for myself and for other people, women especially, to celebrate yourself. So that would be
I
my
love that.
answer.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's a necessity. As you said, all women especially should have it. I want to add, if you don't mind, I think about sometimes we forget about our privileges, that we can do those
Mm,
things. We can hop in our car and go camping, or can afford one night at a hotel. And I just want to add a little bit, if you don't mind. If a person is at a place where they don't have the ability to do those things, have an area in your house, your bedroom, I don't know where it is, the balcony, I don't know, some area where you're like, if there are a spouse or roommates or children, this is my space for 24 hours. Leave me be. Are you okay
hmm
with if I add that to your beautiful self care plan?
Absolutely. That actually crossed my mind. In my case, I put some money in my savings so I can go to to a resort. But I understand that not everybody might be able to do that. I would also say, if you need to make a day for yourself and go to the library, or
Mm,
go to your favorite, restaurant, or it can even doesn't even have to be anything expensive. If you like McDonald's Sundays and that is your thing, make that a part of your day, or however many hours that you have to spare. So yeah, I'm totally in agreement with, having that space, whatever it is or wherever it is, to celebrate yourself and to recharge, reset, and to just be you.
I love it. That's beautiful. I agree with all of that. I'm going to try to implement it. I haven't done a good job of that, taking my Nikita time,
Oh
but I'll
no.
work on that. Thank you.
You need a Nikita retreat.
I do. I do. I really do. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I'll get there. Any closing
Okay.
words, statements, comments?
Well, I mean, going back to the writing, I would say if writing is your thing, um I mean, and it doesn't have to be your thing. If you need to write about you, or if you want to journal, I would recommend doing that. At least,
Mm,
find 30 minutes a week, during one day or however many days that you can spare that time. And I would just say, write. There's something just
mm,
very therapeutic about journaling, and about, writing about a certain experience that you may have had, or something that you would like to share, with your kids, further on down the line, or something. So
I
I would
love that.
definitely say, right. So yes, I would say to make that time to either write about, an experience that you had, or to share something that you want for your children, your family members, your best friend, your spouse, your partner. And I just really think that there's something so powerful about our stories, and sharing your journey and your story could be just the key that somebody else might need, or yourself, or your mental health. So that's what I would suggest.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Resilient Life. I'm so excited about the conversation we had and the knowledge that you shared. I'm so grateful for you giving me your time and your wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope this episode gave you some tools to connect with and increase your resiliency. I'm proud of you. Let's keep up the momentum. Follow Resilient Life on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube at Resilient Life Podcast. Until next time, be kind to yourself and others.